Welcome to Beyond the Music, the podcast where we dive into the lives and the stories of people who shaped the world of music. I am Karina.
And I'm Lena. We're both classically trained singers, and this podcast is our chance to explore the fascinating intersections of music, history, and humanity.
In our previous episode, we discussed orchestral songs, and today we will be looking at the empire in sound, the music of the classic movies, Ben-Hur, The Ten Commandments, and Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor.
Ooh.
Oh, I grew up with those movies. I love them. So, when we think of ancient empires on film, Rome, Egypt, biblical worlds, we often picture towering sets, thousands of extras, and sweeping desert landscapes. But there is another force just as powerful in shaping those worlds: the music. In Hollywood's mid-20th century epic era, 3 scores stand as monumental achievements in how cinema translates history into sound. We have Ben-Hur, composed by Miklos Rozsa, The Ten Commandments, composed by Elmer Bernstein, and Cleopatra, composed by Alex North. Each of these scores does far more than accompany images. They define how we emotionally interpret history itself. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll explore how each composer built an entire ancient world in sound, what they emphasized, what they avoided, and why these 3 approaches still shape film music today. Before we compare these scores directly, we need to understand the musical language they share. All 3 films come from Hollywood's roadshow epic tradition of the 1950s and early 1960s, a period when studios tried to outdo television with scale, color, and spectacle. Music became essential. These scores rely on full symphony orchestra, romantic harmonic language rooted in Wagner, Strauss, and late Russian symphonists, leitmotif technique, recurring themes tied to characters or ideas, massive dynamic range from whispering strings to overwhelming brass and choirs. But even within this shared vocabulary, each composer speaks a different dialect. One builds sacred architecture. One builds ceremonial proclamation. One builds psychological tension. Let's begin with the most structurally refined of them all, Ben-Hur. Miklos Rozsa's score for Ben-Hur with Charlton Heston is often described as one of the greatest film scores ever written, and not just for its famous chariot race. What a scene! What sets it apart is structure. Every major idea in the film has a musical identity. The characters of Judah Ben-Hur, the character of Masala, the city of Rome, and most importantly, the presence of Christ. But what is striking is how Rozsa treats the divine. He refuses to fully state the Christ theme. Instead, it appears in fragments, harmonies that never fully resolve, orchestration that feels distant, almost too pure to grasp. This restraint creates something rare in film music: reverence through absence. Then there is the action writing. The chariot race is not just exciting, it is architecturally precise. Rhythmic ostinatos build like machinery. Brass enters in controlled waves. The orchestra becomes momentum itself. Nothing is random. Everything is engineered. This is why Ben-Hur feels less like a film score and more like a cathedral built in sound. Not emotional chaos, but sacred design. So if Ben-Hur is a cathedral, then Elmer Bernstein's score for the Ten Commandments is a national ceremony. Everything in this score is larger than life. Where Rozza is restrained, Bernstein is declarative. Themes are broad, instantly recognizable, and emotionally direct. The music does not whisper meaning, it announces it. Egypt is portrayed with rhythmic force and orchestral brilliance, heavy brass, exotic colorations, and driving momentum. The Hebrew world, by contrast, is written with hymn-like dignity, slower, more open, more grounded in choral tradition. And when divine intervention occurs, Bernstein does not hesitate. The chorus erupts, the orchestration expands, the effect is not subtle spirituality, it is overwhelming presence. This score is about belief as spectacle. Faith is something visible, audible, undeniable. Even the Exodus sequence feels almost like proto-cinematic maximalism, music pushing forward like a tidal force. Where Ben-Hur builds a sacred space, the Ten Commandments build sacred proclamation. Alex North's score for Cleopatra then changes the entire conversation. This is no longer purely about myth or scripture. This is about psychology. North blends lush, romantic orchestration with modern harmonic instability. The result is a score that never fully settles. Cleopatra's theme is seductive, but unstable. It shifts beneath itself, harmonically uncertain as if reflecting political and emotional calculation. Julius Caesar's music is more grounded, authoritative, structurally clear. However, Mark Antony's material often collapses between strength and doubt. Unlike Rozza and Bernstein, North is not building a unified sacred system. He is portraying instability, empire as fragile, power as emotional volatility. Even the orchestration reflects this. Moments of lush beauty are undercut by dissonance, chromatic movement, unresolved tension. This is the most modern score of the three, not just in chronology, but in psychological perspective. Where Ben-Hur builds faith and the Ten Commandments builds proclamation, Cleopatra builds doubt. Taken together, these three scores reveal something profound about how Hollywood imagined antiquity. Miklos Rozsa's Ben-Hur gives us sacred order. Elmer Bernstein's The Ten Commandments gives us divine spectacle. And Alex North's Cleopatra gives us human instability at the heart of empire. Three composers, three philosophies, three ways of hearing history. And together, they remind us that film music does not simply accompany epic cinema, it defines it. So during these hot days of summer, if you have a moment to watch any of these three epic classics, watch the beautiful scenery, the incredible actors, but also listen to the music. I hope you enjoyed learning about Ben-Hur, the Ten Commandments, and Cleopatra as much as we did. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Next time, we'll dive into another fascinating chapter of music history. Until then, keep listening and discovering the stories beyond the music.
See you next time.